Hey, this is C&D channel. I'm Chris. This is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my post-fight analysis for UFC Fight Night 31, UFC's Fight Night for the Troops 3. Overall, this was a really fun card. It's not the most divisionally relevant, except for, say, the Alexis Davis versus Liz Carmouche fight. You got to see guys like Tim Kennedy get good wins, and some of these guys are going to... You kind of get this idea of like, oh, I think this guy should get a top 10 guy next, or something like that. Like Tim Kennedy, Yoel Romero even, Ustam Khabilov, Dennis Bermudez, You kind of want to see them get like top fighters in their next fight out. Also the crowd, man, that was one of the best crowds I've ever seen or ever heard. I mean, it was a small venue. And the thing with the small venue, too, is you can hear everything that happened in the octagon. When you hear punches, you hear the slapping sound really well. But they count down to the clock every last, 5 or 10 seconds. They'd count down. I mean, and they hardly booed, too. That was really cool. That crowd was probably one of the best crowds I've ever seen. During Tim Kennedy's fight, I mean, he just got the heroes welcome, Ranger up chants, USA chants, good stuff there. My picks are really good too. I got 11 out of 13. 2 I missed were Masvidal versus Khabilov and Bobby Green versus James Krause. Otherwise, I got all the other ones correct actually. As far as bonuses go, Kennedy got knockout of the night. Michael Chiesa got submission of the night. And Khabilov and Masvidal got fight of the night honors. Okay, let's get started. Tim Kennedy beat Rafael Natal by TKO in the first round. I thought it was just more of a KO, but he got that leaping left hook. I think there's another name for it as well. But, it was a good win for Kennedy, and Kennedy really is one of those guys. I still feel he's kind of on a top 11 to 15, but I think there's a couple, top 10 guys he could beat. He can probably beat a Tim Boesch. He can probably beat maybe even Francis Carmon. I think Philippou's still up there. I'm not too sure, but he'd probably be able to beat Philippou, unless Philippou can really work on that takedown defense. Maybe even beat a Mark Munoz, too. So, there are some guys that Tim Kennedy can beat in the top 10. He just needs to prove it. And those are just some of the guys that maybe he should fight next. Another one that'd be interesting just because you got the USA versus UK angle. Bisping versus Kennedy. I think Kennedy versus Carmon would be good. And I think Kennedy would actually bring out an exciting fight on Carmon. The thing with Kennedy is he's a solid all-around fighter. He's a guy that went into Hoger Gracie's guard. He's a good striker. Not a great striker. He's got good wrestling, good scrambling. I think even against a guy like Carmon, the thing that Kennedy usually gets, he loses against the top guys like Luke Rockhold or Jacare. How does he lose? Usually it's when he gets outstruck and he can't get the takedown, or in the case of Jacare, he just refuses to get the takedown. Otherwise, that's usually where he beats. Just guys that can defend his takedowns and beat him up on the feet. I don't know if Carmon's that guy. I don't know if he can beat him up on the feet. That's the thing. I think Philippou could be on the feet. I don't know if he can defend Kennedy's takedowns. And Munoz, his striking, he has power, but I don't know if he can necessarily beat Kennedy on the feet either. So there's a lot of good fights for Kennedy after this. He's so far away from contendership, but in my opinion, he's earned himself a shot against a top 10 guy, for sure. Okay, next fight after that, Alexis Davis beat Liz Carmouche by unanimous decision. I mean, the story of this fight was those leg kicks that Alexis Davis was hitting. And I still contend that I've said this about Alexis Davis before, and I'll say it again. I think she is the most well-rounded female bantamweight out there, and possibly even the most well-rounded female mixed martial artist out there. That's not to say she's the best. She's just the most well-rounded. She is the best. And as far as striking, wrestling / takedowns, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu goes, I think she's definitely the most well-rounded. That's not to say someone like a Sarah Kaufman doesn't beat her, just because stylistically, Sarah Kaufman can defend her takedowns and beat her up on feet. Rousey, Davis is a good wrestler. I think Rousey still takes her down. Maybe even Sarah McMahon takes her down too. So, nonetheless, I mean, Alexis Davis is a contender now. She's on what, like a 4-fight win streak, 2-fight win streak in the UFC. Just beat a very well-known opponent in Liz Carmouche. I know a lot of people are thinking that Carmouche was going to win, and handily too. The thing is with Liz Carmouche, the story of her really is that besides Jessica Andrade and maybe Caitlin Young, she really does not have a good record. I mean, that's the thing with her. She just doesn't have that great of an MMA record. She's something of, I guess, like a can crusher, I mean, obviously, beating Andrade, that was her best win so far. I think Andrade was the first or maybe second. I forgot if Caitlin Young, the first female fighter with like a winning record. I mean, that's the thing with Carmouche. The problem with her is that if she tends to out-muscle her opponent. She gets the takedowns, passes them out, and does ground and pound. The problem is, if she can't do that or refuses to do that, she actually doesn't have that much else. I mean, rear naked choke on Rousey, or like neck crank on Rousey aside. I mean, she honestly doesn't have the greatest striking. She has good wrestling, but I've seen her get outstruck by like Sarah Kaufman as well. And like I said, she's a good guard passer, but the thing is, even against Alexis Davis, that'd be really tough because Alexis Davis is a legit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, very good off her back, which may be one reason why Liz Carmouche didn't go for the takedown. It could also be that Davis was just leg kicking her so much that she couldn't. But yeah, Alexis Davis, a lot of forward pressure, kept making Carmouche back up, which also makes it hard to get takedowns. Going for the leg kicks, just being on her face the whole time. And the fact of the matter is, with Davis, I mean, you gotta wonder if he might be the next title contender, just because, I mean, it's supposed to be Kat Zingano, but Zingano is not healed of her knee surgery, or I don't know. I just don't know when she's gonna come back from knee injury. If not, I mean, you could go with Davis versus McMahon or Jessica I next. The problem with doing that, though, honestly, is bantamweight is still pretty thin. So both those female fighters are contenders. They're good fights. They're actually fights I'd want to see, but it's that whole killing the contender in the small division thing. With Liz Carmouche, maybe into Nunes next or Jermaine Durandamy. Usually she does really well against fighters she can take down and mount and go ground and pound. And if she can't do that, she's kind of lost. Just needs to shore up other parts of the game if she can, or strengthen her, her game, the game she already has. Right after that, Yoel Romero beat Honey Marks by KO in the third round. I think about this is, even though Marks managed to get taken down to Romero just got back to lead.
I think one thing is that Romero took Marks off of his grinding game. You got to see some of Marks' stand up, but he's bringing a lot of hand. He did, as he catch Romero. Oh. Otherwise, Romero was finding a home for that left hand all night. He has a very odd way of fighting. He does a lot of like weird feints and just some weird stuff. They're almost like taunts, It's really interesting that when Marks was on his back, that Romero wouldn't follow him to the ground. Probably a good idea. I thought he was beating him up on the feet. Romero has a really good style. I mean, he can beat a lot of grinders and wrestle boxers, though, because he can out-wrestle a lot of guys, offensively and defensively. He's huge for the weight class. The guy's just giant. Honey Marks is a huge middleweight, and Romero looks like the same size as Marks. And Romero can box and got some heavy hands. That's the thing with him. He's a very good talent. One thing I always say is about Romero, I just wish the guy were younger. If he were 30, 31, no less if he were like in his 20s, the guy would be like a top 10 guy. Here's the thing. He's been wrestling for a while, though, so he does have wear and tear from there. He didn't look it in this fight, so he doesn't have a lot of wear and tear from fighting, which may extend his career. But with his age and the fact that he's off of two pretty spectacular wins, actually. He flying kneed Clifford Starks, and then he just knocked out Honey Marks, who is just a notorious grinder. I think you got to kind of get him someone kind of up there. I think Tim Boesch would be a good fight for him next. Carmon would be pretty cool, actually. Another one that I think would be interesting. They're two prospects, because you kind of have to call Romero prospect just because he doesn't even have 10 fights to his credit. It's kind of weird to call a 36-year-old a prospect, but he is a guy that is kind of still improving. He doesn't have a lot of fight years, that's the thing, but he is on the wrong side of 30. But another guy you can fight who is coming up is Brad Tavares, actually. But yeah, I would like to see them kind of. I know they put Romero with Fajal a little too early in his career, but Honey Marks is actually a very good win in the division. Marks, like I said, big for the weight class, notorious grinder, was coming off a really good winning streak, and he knocked the guy out. I know no one knows who Marks is, but that's actually a pretty solid win for him. Okay, next fight after that, Husam Khabilov beat Jorge Masvidal by unanimous decision. It's 30-27, with 2 scorecards and a 29-28, if I'm not mistaken. It's a somewhat controversial scorecard, simply because some people argue that Masvidal got the first 2 rounds. Khabilov definitively got the 3rd round, though, especially with that spinning back kick. Well, it wasn't really a spinning back kick, it was a spinning heel kick or hook kick, wheel kick, that knocked him down. Credit to Masvidal in this fight for his counter wrestling, his scrambling ability to get back to his feet. Khabilov would take him down. And Masvidal would just find ways to scramble and get back to his feet. And even just his overall takedown defense. That was a few times he could take him down. And Masvidal took down Khabilov. And one thing to note about that takedown was that Khabilov didn't do much posture control and whatnot during that time. So you gotta wonder if he's still kind of weak off his back. Khabilov's striking is pretty good. It's still not technically sound. He relies a lot on those overhand rights. And I will say that I think Masvidal, his problem, besides he'll get lazy during fights. Like he got dropped by Michael Chiesa as well. Besides that, the thing with Masvidal is his lack of output. He can defend takedowns, but his output is not very much. He'll throw like a 1-2 and he's done,
The guy, he just needs a lot more output in his striking. And I thought he would have been able to win had he just had more output, to be perfectly honest with you. Regardless, Khabilov's a winner. I think, Masvidal's a really good win. Definitely a very underrated fighter. But Khabilov, I think the winner of Varner versus Healy or the winner of T-Bell versus Johnson should be next for him. Okay, next fight I thought Michael Chiesa beat Colton Smith by rear naked choke in the second round. Nice to see a fun Colton Smith fight here. I knew that Michael Chiesa has really good back control, but I forgot that Colton Smith also likes the back control as well. Given that that's where he spent most of the Miles Jury fight. And this was a really fun wrestling scrambling battle. And also back take and rear naked choke battle. Colton Smith got Chiesa's back, almost finished him. Michael Chiesa got his back in the first round, almost finished him from a hip sweep. So that was pretty cool scene. And also, finally, I don't know what the name of that judo takedown was, but man, did Colton Smith just land on his head? That was, he got hit pretty hard. Michael Chiesa is an interesting talent just because he lost Masvidal but looked pretty good. His striking still isn't that good. He's a good wrestler and his back control is like amazingly good. I mean, he just has like really, really strong back control. I don't know if he'll be a top 10 guy or anything like that, or even a top 15 guy. He might just be a perpetual mid-tier. Like, I said this about, like, Matt Wyman, Sam Sow, and Tiago Tavares. They're, like, in mid-tier purgatory. I don't know if Michael Chiesa will be that guy. It's really tough to say, because I can see him get beat up on the feet by a lot of guys. Nonetheless, it's a good win for him. I think he should just fight more mid to lower tier of his division. Nice to see more judo used in the UFC. You see it sometimes, but I like to see more creative throws from the clinch. A lot of guys will just defend the takedown, but not like when they have their back against the cage. But Chiesa decided to use judo throw, and it worked to great effect. Colton Smith is interesting in the sense that he's on a 2-fight losing streak now. He is an Ultimate Fighter winner. But he does have the military thing going on for him. And it wasn't a fun fight this time. However, I'm going to be honest with you. Him getting hip swept, falling for a hip sweep like that, and that's kind of a white belt move in a sense. I hate to really discredit or put down Colton Smith. But, honestly, I don't think he's UFC caliber. He doesn't have, he has, a 3-3, 4-3 record. He's a good grinder, but honestly, he's one of those guys that would actually benefit from fighting outside the UFC. To be perfectly honest with you. He needs to round out his game. He did really good, though, against Michael Chiesa, But I think he would be even better if he could just round out his game more in the regional scene and not fight good guys. That's the thing. If not, just more lower to mid-tier of his division. Okay, on to the FS1 prelims. Bobby Green beat James Krause by TKO in the first round. This is really controversial in the sense that Bobby Green did get 2 nut shots on James Krause. And the third one, a lot of people are saying it clearly helped hit the belt line. And then there's the other people that said, no, it grazed the cup first before hitting the belt line. The other part of controversy here is that when Big John announced that James Krause lost, James Krause pretty much just jumped up right away and all of a sudden he's not hurt down there. So maybe there's a couple theatrics involved. Tough to say. Other thing to note here: Bobby Green, Dan Lozon affliction. Bobby Green was. I don't know if I don't think he intentionally does it. I think he just has bad aim. But he did, kick the nuts of Dan Lozon a good amount of times in that fight. Not saying necessarily that he's a dirty fighter, but he's done it before. Was there theatrics involved with James Krause? Maybe he was milking it. He may have been hit there. Maybe he milked it more than it was. Despite all that, it's just a controversial call by the ref. I don't really know if Big John was wrong to call this as it is. Did he do his job or not? It's tough to say just because, maybe Big John, he's a type of guy that doesn't like fighters gaming the system. So maybe he saw that and it's like, dude, you're faking. You're gonna, and you're gonna pay for it, I don't know. It's tough to say. It's really a gray area, because I think he did graze the cup in the third nut shot. I think it kind of went up to his belt line. James Krause could have been kind of milking the injury. That's not to ignore the fact that Green hit him in the balls 3 times, or in that area 3 times, in the first round. So it's a really controversial call. I would have actually thought a DQ for Bobby Green, or it'd been a DQ win for Krause. I mean, I think the outcome is just so odd, It's just Bobby Green beat James Krause by TKO, in the record. It's like, really? It was very. It's just so odd, No contest would have honestly been, I think, a lot more, I guess, fair, or it would have seemed a better outcome than this, because no one, the film is, no one gets the impression that Bobby Green won the fight. So, and when he had the precedent that he already kicked, James Krause down there twice already, and that it did graze the cup. I mean, there's at least a precedent for hey, maybe he should get DQ'd. I don't know. But yeah, but then when you get the whole James Krause was jumped straight up once Big John said he lost, it makes me wonder if he was just faking it. I guess they should rematch. They're both really good prospects. I thought, the fight could have kind of gone either way. Didn't realize how tall Bobby Green was, actually. I knew James Krause was a tall lightweight. I didn't realize how tall Bobby Green was, though. They're still both good prospects. I'm just curious to see what happens with them next. If they don't fight each other next, just more lower to mid-tier guys for both of them. Okay, next right after that, Francisco Rivera beat George Root by TKO in the second round. Good win for Rivera. George Root was coming off a 2-fight win streak over Ruben Duran and Brian Bowles. Rivera's got some heavy hands, and George Root has a really bad defense in the stand-up. The reason why that's exactly why I picked Rivera to win. I thought he would just find his chin despite the height difference. I mean, that's just the thing with Root. He keeps it. He doesn't tuck in his chin. He tends to crouch a lot, so he makes himself shorter. And man, he really just jump on the guy. I mean, to the point where he got himself tight. Where he gassed himself. I mean, but George Root was pretty loopy. I guess there's an argument. I mean, George Root, he finally got dropped, and he's still kind of fighting. But by then, it's the guy was getting dropped or wobbled a lot, His body language definitely was like, get me out of here, you know. When he's standing and getting hit, you can see him just kind of push Rivera off or just stick his hands out, you know. But yeah, the thing with Rivera, he's one of the hardest hitters at bantamweight. You know, he has good boxing skills. He actually doesn't have a bad ground game. It's not his strength, and I know, and he knows that a lot of people will probably just take him down all the time. He's like 31, 32, so he's not exactly what I call a prospect, but he's always a good, fun action fighter. I just like to see him against more, you know, more mid to lower tier of the division. Maybe a Bruce Leroy next, for example. Or the winner of Eric Perez versus Goyito. Who else is Goyito fighting? I forgot who he's fighting now. I know Perez is fighting someone. The winner of that fight versus Rivera would be fun as well. Okay. Next fight after that, Dennis Bermudez beat Steven Siler by unanimous decision. Man, Bermudez is a really strong guy. It's kind of how the fight. It's kind of how I saw the fight, except for the scrambling and those front chokes. Man, these guys are going for guillotines, neck cranks, and whatnot. This was a fun fight. Lots of great scrambles, lots of guillotine attempts. Just good stuff here, and a really good performance by Bermudez. He actually used some head movement here. He still isn't the best as far as defense goes. He'll mess a lot of things as well. But man, did he slam? I mean, he powerbombed Siler when Siler would go for other jumping guillotines. He just threw him down. So it was a really fun fight. I think it was definitely the best performance by Dennis Bermudez. I mean, he's always pushing forward. He's really aggressive. He's got some really good wrestling. And he's just a strong dude. He's really game. Steven Siler was in the fight, though, man. I always like what I see from Siler. You know, he should just get more lower to mid-tier of the division. He's a good fighter. You know, he's rounding out his game of stand-ups, looking better. You know, still needs work, but it's definitely better. But Bermudez, you know, he's on a really good win streak, too. He needs to step up in competition. I'm thinking the winner of Poirier versus Brandao. He can rematch Brandao. It wouldn't be too bad. Or maybe a Darren Elkins, who's coming off a win over Hatsuyoki. Or the winner of Lentz versus Mendez, if Mendez doesn't get a title shot, you know. I know they're supposed to do Bermudez and Lentz. I think that would actually bring out a lot in Lentz, to be perfectly honest with you. Next fight after that, Amanda Nunes beat Jermaine Durandamy by TKO in the first round. It's kind of an early stoppage. You know, Durandamy was kind of just blocking a lot of the strikes with her arms, and you never know if Nunes would have gassed herself out. Otherwise, she was kind of in the same position. She was kind of sideways, just kind of defending with her arms. And, you know, she wasn't really doing much to defend herself except for that. She wasn't really moving around to change her position. Durandamy, you know, her takedown defense is improving. However, she's still really new to the game. And a lot of fighters near the top, whether it's like, I think even Liz Carmouche would probably take down Durandamy. But like Alexis Davis would probably take her down. McMahon would. Rousey, Tate, Zingano would probably take her down. Man, against other strikers, she'd do pretty well. Nunes is fighting a smart fight here, though. Throwing leg kicks. Just finding her time until she can get the takedown, past the mount, through ground and pound. Lots of elbows. It's just a good win for Nunes, and she's on a 2-fight win streak in the UFC. You know, it's tough to say who should she get next. I'm thinking Jessica Ai would be good. I mean, you could give her Alexis Davis in a rematch, but you know, it's really tough to say. There's not that many options. That's the thing. Good one for Durandami. Just more. Jeez, there's not many options. Who's coming off a loss? Who's not cut? I know Rosie Sexton. I don't know if she's cut yet. Could do Nunes versus Andrade. That wouldn't be too bad either. Geez, I'm kind of just thinking who's on the loss, or who's a UFC newcomer, like Alexander Albu maybe against Durandami. Yeesh, there aren't that many options that I can think of at this time. Yeah, not many options I can think of for Durandami. Okay, next on to the Facebook prelims. Lawrence Larkin beat Chris Camozzi by unanimous decision. Camozzi's got a chin, and I've seen it before. He takes a lot of good hits. Larkin, though, has got some really dynamic striking. He's always a prospect to watch out for. I think he should just get more lower to mid-tier guys in the division. I think he beat Francis Cormon. He has good takedown defense and can beat people up on the feet. Camozzi, some more lower to mid-tier guys if he's not cut. I don't know. He's always good to have around because he's kind of like a good gatekeeper type guy. He's tough to finish. Well-rounded enough, but just not great anywhere. But he's on a 2-fight losing streak. He lost to Jack Ray, then he just lost to Larkin. But yeah, just more lower to mid-tier guys for both these guys. Next right after that, Yancy Medeiros beat Ave Edwards by KO in the first round. Edwards might get cut. I think this is like 3 losses in a row for him, and quite honestly, he got knocked out again. He got knocked out by Sam Stout not that long ago. I mean, Edwards is getting older. His chin is not getting better. I love the master of Thug Jitsu, but against other strikers that really push forward on him, he tends to struggle. Medeiros is a prospect to look out for. Defensively, he still needs some work. He was catching some right hands a lot from Edwards. I mean, that's the thing. He's tagging Edwards as well, but he still needs some work on his defense. His offensive striking is really good, and he is a prospect to watch out for. He's what I would just define as raw prospect. Even in Strikeforce, he fought in middleweight, actually. And I remember seeing him fight, I was like, he's pretty good, his striking's not too bad, but he's still really raw, like, he's definitely something of an unfinished product. And I kind of see that here. Even against Hobby Love, I kind of notice, like, his striking's pret's good, he's a little rough around the edges. And even here, it's like, striking's pretty good, he's just rough around the edges, It's definitely what I call a raw prospect, but someone to look out for. Fun fighter, good stand-up, Actually got some pretty good takedown defense. And this is a pretty solid win over a known veteran. I hope, I think that Ave Edwards will probably get cut after this, so. Okay, next one after that, Seth Baczynski beat Neil Magny by unanimous decision. I know, like Sherdog and other sites and the crowd, they gave the fight to Neil Magny. This is like 2 losses in a row for Magny. I think he'll probably get cut because he doesn't really serve a role in the UFC. With Baczynski, he is what he is at this point. I think he just get more lower to mid-tier guys at the division. And finally, one of the bigger surprises of the night as Derek Brunson got the rear naked choke over Brian Houston in the first round. It's not a surprise that he won, because Derek Brunson just has so much more experience than Brian Houston. Houston was 4-0, first fight in the UFC. Didn't really expect him to win or anything. I think it was definitely too soon for him to be in the UFC, to be perfectly honest with you. It was winning with a head kick and a follow-up rear naked choke. Considering that Brunson, I've seen him just grind a lot of times. Brunson's still... he's still a prospect, though. His striking can use some work, but it's nice to see a head kick from him. And just a fun fight from him. The Chris Lehman fight was not that great. But yeah, he's a guy that can strike and has some good wrestling. So I don't know if he'll be a top 10 prospect or anything, but he's definitely not a bad prospect by any stretch. The one guy he did get knocked out to was Jacare. He lost to Kendall Grove, which was kind of controversial, and he took that fight on short notice, I think, too. But 2-fight win streak for Brunson. Just more lower to mid-tier guys in the division. He's actually doing pretty well. He's doing a lot better than I thought he would in the UFC. That's for sure. But yeah, just more lower to mid-tier guys in the division. They keep Brian Houston, just more lower to mid-tier guys of the division as well. Okay, so that's pretty much it for my post-fight analysis for UFC Fight Night 31. If you have any comments, just leave them below. That's it for MMA for you. Thank you guys very much.